What if Fives revealed Order 66 to the Jedi Council? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Shaak Ti glares at the Kaminoan, daring her to protest or challenge her word. For a moment, it seems like she might do just that, but instead, Nala Se backs down. She spreads her arms and steps back, and then storms out of the room. Only then, when they are alone, does Shaak Ti allow herself to breathe. The truth is, she has no idea what she's doing with this. There is much about this situation that she does not understand. But one thing she is certain about is that the Kaminoans are not telling her everything, and she cannot trust them to be honest. This means she must personally ensure that this information reaches the Jedi Council.
Thank you for believing me, Mum.
You have served the Republic well, Fives. You have sacrificed much. How could I not help you? But we must be careful. I suspect that this is only the first step to a much greater conspiracy.
Well, whatever happens, I intend to get to the bottom of it.
Then you can count on my support for it. We depart to the Jedi Temple in the morning. But in the meantime, have your droid companion make a copy of this data, and give it to me, just in case the data Nala Se has mysteriously vanishes.
Fives does just that, and the two leave on the first ship from Kamino the next day. Shaak Ti accompanies Fives, keeping him close and contacting the Jedi Council ahead to ensure they can secure a meeting with them before anyone else. She has already forwarded them the data she had gathered. When they arrive later that day, the Jedi are ready to escort them and bring them to the Jedi Temple. There, Fives explains everything that happened on Ringo Vinda and what he saw during his time on Kamino, including the inhibitor chips.
So you mean to tell me that these chips are implanted in all clones?
That is what I believe, and I certainly have reason to suspect that.
What could this mean? These chips are the key to all of this, but there is so much we don't know.
That is why I've brought the chip here. I had feared that if this was left unattended, the device and all its data would have turned up missing.
A wise move, given the circumstances, Master. I can begin decoding it. If there's something in them, I can figure it out.
With that, Anakin gets to work and begins studying the chips. He slices through the security codes and tries to access the hidden data underneath. However, this is more difficult than anticipated, as whoever designed them clearly put a lot of effort into making sure that no one can access them. The technology used to encrypt it is state-of-the-art, forcing Anakin to go slow and steady to prevent the security codes from being activated. All the while, the Jedi are pressured to reveal their findings and present the chips to the proper authorities. The Kaminoans had not taken this lying down, and now have secretly informed Palpatine about it. The Chancellor now uses the full power of the Senate to force the Jedi to reveal their findings. They insist that this is a matter of intergalactic security, and that is highly irregular for the Jedi to go above the Senate and to take over such operations, especially when the Republic personally ordered this data. However, they do not find a compliant Jedi Order. After the fiasco that was Ahsoka's trial, the Jedi are not in the mood to simply obey the Senate. Instead, they close ranks and begin to hit back, citing that the real issue is the Kaminoans installing these chips without informing anyone to begin with. They said that they must first investigate the cloning operations on Kamino and ensure that they are not hiding anything further. Yoda himself spearheads this effort, rallying the Jedi Order together and saying how they have long been blindsided by this war, and now is the time for them to take charge. It is a rare moment of complete unity within the Jedi Order, and this makes them a powerful force. Their efforts soon pay off, as Anakin at last cracks the security codes, and at last shows all their command codes within. This is presented in the Senate, and the information is a bombshell to say the least. There are dozens of command codes, ordering the clones to remove the Chancellor, to support the line of succession, and even eliminate the Jedi. None of this had been mentioned by the Kaminoans either, to the Jedi or to the Senate, and both parties are furious. All this time, the clones were programmed to play kingmakers within the Republic, and they demand answers. Suddenly, both sides find themselves in complete agreement, presenting a unified front against the Kaminoans. They push for a full investigation into this matter. The Kaminoans try to protest, pointing out that they were merely following the instructions of their client, someone they can't reveal due to legal protections. But while this prevents the Sith from being implicated, it is still a dangerous situation for Palpatine. The last thing they want is them to present a unified front, and now even the public is slowly being won to their side. While they had initially been concerned about the Jedi's secrecy and resistance, this revelation wins them to his side. Even those who had little care for the Jedi Order are concerned about these secret commands, especially those that suggest wiping out civilian populations to hunt down individual targets. It is a dangerous position, and he must act quietly to neutralize their unity. The first thing the Chancellor does is shift focus to the Kaminoans, painting them as the scapegoats for this problem. It is an easy enough thing to do, as they are the ones who created the clones, and the ones who have refused to cooperate by providing the names of their clients or this data. Many are quick to turn against them, with the Senate even threatening to cancel existing contracts with their people if they are not forthcoming. But that is not all he does, as during the next Senate meeting, he makes a surprise announcement.
Attention, people of the Republic and esteemed members of the Jedi Council. I have heard your pleas, and I come to address the issues. For many days, our Republic was gripped with uncertainty thanks to the recent developments regarding the clone inhibitor chips. Rest assured that I will do everything in my power to ensure that justice is done. But as we begin our investigation into the Kaminoans' part in this conflict, we must address the issue of the clones who are already operating. We must assume that they already have the inhibitor chips, and therefore might be compromised.
The news lands like a lead ball in water. The whole Senate chamber falls silent as senators are made to grapple with the implications. Even the Jedi look around nervously. They have all understood that this is a distinct possibility, but it is a thought that none of them likes to think about. Yet they understand that if they are to move forward, they must be working to address this issue. Many lean closer to Palpatine, and he moves for this Senate session to be designated on what to do about that problem. And soon enough, the ideas begin to come out. Unfortunately, many of them are questionable. For those in the Senate, they are rattled about the security risk this poses to them and their positions, and move that the clones be immediately decommissioned. They will be removed from the front lines and discharged from duty. They might be kept in non-combat roles, or simply be allowed to find work elsewhere. Unsurprisingly, the Jedi are shocked by this callous treatment of the clones as they had fought alongside them.
With all due respect, you are treating these clones as if they are tools and no longer functioning. They are people who have committed themselves to defending our Republic, and they have done so for many years.
And yet they are also ticking time bombs. How long will it be until they decide to turn against us and no longer serve the Republic? We have already seen one gun down one of the Jedi.
They have not decided anything, Senator. These chips are what caused the trooper to act. This is not their decision, and they cannot be held accountable for that. It certainly is no excuse to deprive them of the only life they have known. While I cannot ignore the threat these chips pose, we can handle this situation humanely.
Your compassion is admirable, Master Shaak Ti, but we must look at this situation realistically. The clones cannot be expected to serve an active duty like this.
I agree. That is why I propose the Senate and the Jedi begin making an effort to remove the inhibitor chips. ARC Troops 5 has already shown it can be done safely.
And what about the cost? To remove the chips for how many millions of clones? Imagine the time and effort it would take. Imagine the cost of it.
This causes a few senators to gasp. They begin to nod their heads more eagerly, looking less certain about this plan. However, the Jedi do not join these efforts and shake their heads, looking at those senators with barely concealed disdain.
You have just spent time complaining about the security risks and were prepared to sacrifice your army. Surely you can make a lesser sacrifice of shouldering some costs.
The senators look at her darkly, glaring at her and looking over at them. A few mutter curses under their breath, while others are a bit more vocal and publicly denounce them.
And how long will it take until all of these chips are removed? Months? Years? How can we be certain that they will not be activated before that?
Yes, but that is for us to decide. The Jedi were made the commanders of this war effort, and we have final say on military matters. Besides, even if we were to replace the clones, what would we replace them with?
Arguments begin to break out as senators and Jedi all voice their opinions. They are far from unified either. Some of the Senate, like Padme, Chuchi, and Bail Organa, rally around the Jedi and provide their support, suggesting creating a committee that will oversee the chip's removal. However, at the same time, some of the Jedi join the Senate in support of disbanding the clone army entirely. These are the Jedi wary of what the clones could do. Order 66 sticks out in their heads. Others have never trusted them and now have their fears vindicated. Others are simply concerned with the Jedi's growing entanglement in the war. The session soon ends, with nothing of note being accomplished, as now everyone is in a panic about what to do. They can find little to agree on. Palpatine watches all of this silently from his podium, a faint smile playing on his face. He watches as the carefully forged coalition begins to crumble, and for the moment, their hands are on each other's throats, and not his. But that is just the first step. At last, the Chancellor steps in and offers his judgment. He decides that the clones have served the Republic well and offers a compromise. He will allow the inhibitor chips to be removed, and the Republic will shoulder the cost. That being said, he cannot ignore the dangers of relying solely on the clones, so instead, his allies put forward legislation to begin recruiting a conscripted army. This compromise pacifies the people for now, as the Jedi are free to begin removing chips while the Senate is promised additional security guards not related to the clones. The process of removing these chips begins as the Jedi have the clones called back in batches, with groups from all across the front and different legions being pulled back at once, ensuring that all sectors are treated. At the same time, Admiral Tarkin is placed in command of recruitment and training for the new conscript army. For the first few weeks of this plan, things seem to be going well, as they encounter no problems. The reduced armies of the Republic can hold the line, and thousands of clones have their chips removed, ensuring that the clone army is truly being turned into an army loyal to the Republic. That is where Palpatine unleashes Dooku. With the information that the clone army's strength is substantially reduced, the Count orders a strike across the front, hitting these undermanned positions. The effects are felt immediately, and the front reels from the attacks. While the clones and Jedi fight valiantly, cutting down many droids, they do not have it in them to hold back the entire force. In some places, gaps begin to form, and the droids advance inward. With all their forces committed to the front, the clones cannot deploy any reserves, and it seems like their front might collapse. However, reinforcements soon arrive, as in one contested sector near Duros, a Republic fleet under the command of Tarkin arrives and reinforces their position. Instead of clone troopers, he brings an army of conscripted stormtroopers. These soldiers rush through the battlefield and engage the droids, using the tried-and-true squad tactics to overwhelm large numbers of CIS forces. They split into smaller squads, using heavy weapons to compensate for lack of numbers and drive them back. These individual squads coordinate their strikes and slowly herd them into killing zones, where heavy artillery can wipe them out. They do this without the aid of the Jedi, and yet it does not matter. Many of their forces fall and are not as well trained, but they have the numbers and can still outsmart the droids as well as any army. Still, the battle ends in a much-needed victory, and the CIS is driven back. The Senate in particular is ecstatic about this success, seeing it as proof that the clones are not a necessity for victory in the war. They thank Tarkin for his efforts and press their claim once again that the clones be replaced with conscripted soldiers. The Jedi dig their heels in and insist that this is not the way. But while the Senate and Jedi bicker amongst themselves on the best path moving forward, the army begins its advance. The victory at Duros manages to close one of the CIS footholds, and Tarkin is eager to capitalize on this success by taking as much land as he can. His troops advance further, pursuing the battered droid army back to their territory, and begin a series of probing attacks at CIS space, aiming to secure a foothold of their own. It is slow going, but they soon capture several planets. During that time, they also found a CIS data center. It is half hidden on a gassy moon, where the CIS strategists hope that the inhospitable atmosphere will cause the Republic to overlook such a planet. But they are wrong, as the stormtroopers detect a faint energy signature. Soon enough, stormtroopers donning survival gear come rushing from the smoke, facing off against the droid forces guarding the data center. The battle is one-sided, as the droids are cut off from any reinforcements. They can only battle to the last in hopes of taking as many meat bags with them, and they do that. Blaster bolts rain through the gas, leaving soldiers to rush blindly into the battle, not knowing where the attacks are coming from, and many stormtroopers meet their end here. But the droids are pushed back from their outer defenses, and then deeper into the main stronghold. But as the new stormtroopers capture the facility, one of them begins harvesting data, and his eyes widen at what he sees. Old receipts from financial exchanges, including one from Kamino. Schematics were sent to the Kaminoans for prototype inhibitor chips. This all but confirms that the CIS had some part in the creation of the clone army. When this news breaks, it is an explosion. The great chamber echoes with shouts and cries of outrage. Senators rise from their seats, jabbing fingers and waving datapads. On the central podium, Mas Amata tries and fails to restore order. A large hologram hovers in the center, displaying encrypted Kaminoan logs, showing the specifications of the inhibitor chips, which match what was found in Fives. It's the addendum attached to the file showing receipts for this construction signal by Saifa Diaz. Gasps follow. Some senators rise in horror, others in fury. Mon Mothma grips the edge of her bench. Padme and Bail exchange a glance, their faces pale with disbelief. Warren-Free Ta slams his hand on the railing.
This is the betrayal we feared. The Jedi conspired with Sith agents to unleash an army of ticking weapons upon us.
The Jedi have done no such thing, and this information hardly proves any connection between us. Only that one of us has lost their way.
Yet her words are lost to the wind as many senators shout her down, calling the Jedi traitors.
We trusted the Jedi with military command, yet they failed to detect the Sith's involvement in a war they now lead. This confirms it. We need new leadership. A new army. This chamber will now recognize Emergency Personnel Delta 7 to immediately suspend Jedi authority in military operations until this crisis is resolved.
More than that, we must suspend the clones entirely and replace them with these new troops Tarkin has recruited. The conscripts were the ones who captured this data. They clearly are better to prosecute this war.
Senators murmur. The chamber is on the verge of erupting again when Padme Amidala rises.
This chamber will not turn this revelation into a scapegoat hunt. Sifo Dyas may have acted alone. We cannot ignore that the Jedi were deceived just as we were.
We need investigation, not retribution. This war has blurred too many lines. But the moment we start turning on each other, then the Separatists' fears are legitimized.
The arguments rage, but the mood is shifting. Panic is in the atmosphere. Trust is unraveling. Within the Jedi Council chambers, the mood is tense. The Jedi are preparing for the worst, unsure whether or not they will be able to remain there after everything that's happened. If they are removed, they fear political prosecution and prepare to make departures. But as the Jedi Council prepares for defeat, Anakin paces beside a holotable littered with files, decrypted logs, and Kaminoan records. Fives stands rigidly at the side, the datapad in hand, while Shaak Ti quietly reviews a scroll of council reports.
Tell me it's just a coincidence that this leak just so happened to drop the exact moment the Senate was questioning clone loyalty and a new conscript army was made.
It's no coincidence. Whoever leaked it timed it perfectly. The moment we gained momentum, trust even, this derails it.
Someone is orchestrating this. They put us against the Senate, undermine our reputation, and then they can take control.
These are just rumors and accusations. They are nothing without proof. We must go deeper. Kamino's logs, council communications, deployment records, everything we can. If this was orchestrated, there must be a trace.
And what do we do if we find it?
Then we expose the traitor.
Dim light washes over rows of Jedi archives. Anakin, Shaak Ti, and Fives sit in silence, exhausted and surrounded by data holopads and sliced files. Dozens of files, thousands of logs, rumors, hearsay, and ideas, but no definitive proof. Anakin slumps forward, rubbing his temples.
We're sifting through shadows. Just vague anomalies. Lost records, deployment orders that lead nowhere.
We're looking in the wrong place. If this was orchestrated, the Republic records would have already been cleaned.
What about the CIS? If someone wanted to manipulate both sides, they'd need to control both streams. Kamino is the clone supply line. But the droids, maybe there's something there.
Dooku was the Sith apprentice. If he coordinated the war with someone else, the Separatist records might show it. Evidence of collusion.
Then we need someone who can slip past Separatist defenses. Someone trained in stealth and unaligned with the Council.
She and Anakin exchange a glance. Later that day, Ahsoka Tano receives a message from her former master, asking for her help. She had left the Jedi Order and wanted nothing more to do with that war. But as she hears what is happening, she can't bring herself to ignore the chaos. She instead takes the data chip her former master gives her and promises to do what she can. There are a number of known data centers in the Outer Rim that she can search for war, and Ahsoka studies them for patterns. She looks for places where the war turned without reason. It may show outside manipulation.
You think Dooku was working with someone in the Republic?
Not just someone. Someone high. Very high. I just hope I'm wrong.
Soon enough, Ahsoka departs and begins her search. Using the data provided by Anakin from the recent military expeditions, she's managed to find a cluster of planets where troop movements seem unnatural. The battle swings back and forth, and soldiers only seem to move because they were given information from outside, and it just so happens that she finds a data center there. The young Jedi slips inside, her lightsabers igniting as she prepares herself. The place is guarded mostly by droids, but as she makes her way inward, she lets the Force guide her, taking her to the databanks. There, she inserts her data disk and begins to download the information. As the intelligence runs through the screen, her eyes scan over the information, and then her eyes widen as she takes it all in. Meanwhile, in the Jedi Temple, Anakin slams the evidence down before the Council.
This is it. Kamino didn't act alone. Someone high up authorized changes to the clones' command protocols.
Then we've been fighting a war with a loaded deck. The outcome was never in our hands.
A war of shadows, it becomes. Puppets pulled on both ends. Fight it, we did. And in doing so, the enemy wins.
Then we must retake the fight and bring it on our own terms.
Days later, the masses gather. Thousands of clones, unarmed, with scars to show their inhibitor chips have been removed. They march alongside the Jedi, carrying signs and shouting their loyalty to the Republic, yet they will not fight for a Republic that does not value their lives. While the Republic has wished to decommission them, having so many clones leave active duty at once comes as a shock to the Senate, and Tarkin struggles to fill up their gaps. Their initial success has come down to having insider information on where to strike, but now that more gaps are opening, they are less able to respond and find themselves at risk of being overwhelmed. The protesters' numbers are initially few, as many of the population choose to remain out of the conflict. They have no love for the clones and will not stick their necks out for them at first. Senators like Padme, Bail Organa, and Chuchi stand at the head of the march, speaking through holobroadcasts.
We were told this was about security, but it's about control. These men, these soldiers, were bred in secrecy, programmed without their consent, and treated as expendable. This isn't security. It's a human rights crisis.
Behind her, Jedi in formation. Citizens flood the street, holding signs. Clones are people. No more manufactured war. End emergency powers.
The Senate speaks of threats, but the greatest threat is the government that strips away the rights of its own protectors and its people, that disposes of its people when they are no longer of use to them.
The crowd erupts and cheers. Above them, Jedi Masters oversee the march, guiding them toward the Senate building. Palpatine watches from the shadows, hooded, calm, his hands folded.
Chancellor, the protests are larger than expected. Some battalions have defected entirely. Senator Organa is calling for a no-confidence vote.
Then it is time the Republic was reminded what chaos looks like.
He presses a hidden comm.
Initiate emergency security protocol, Theta.
The roar of the protest shifts. A low, droning sound builds. Gunships descend from the skyline. Legions of newly trained conscript troopers in dark red armor form up in military formation around the plaza. They are joined by the Coruscant Guard still loyal to Palpatine. Loudspeakers blast across the streets.
By order of Chancellor Palpatine, this gathering is deemed a threat to Republic unity. Disperse immediately or face military consequences.
Clones and Jedi alike move to shield the protesters. Anakin steps to the front. He stands his ground, clenching his fists. Although he does not draw his weapon, he has it ready and looks at them. Shaak Ti joins them as the other Jedi move to shield the protesters. The clones all ready themselves. Although unarmed, they look ready to fight.
This is your last warning.
His troops lock shields and ready their weapons. Even the gunships look ready to fire. Anakin tenses, reaching into the Force and preparing to unleash it. He can sense the soldiers getting ready to fire, but then someone appears. A voice echoes across the plaza, and a starship hovers overhead. Clones aim their gunships toward the new arrival, but Ahsoka does not seem afraid as she leaps down and holds up her data chip.
Commander, your men are serving the wrong side. Take a look at this before you open fire.
Commander Fox seems confused, but takes the chip and begins to place it on the camera. As the video plays on screen, his eyes widen in surprise as he sees the images flash. Their messages being decoded and revealing that someone was directing the CIS on where the Republic forces are located. Unfortunately, this happens more than once, and even the clone commander's face falls as he sees this. The rest of the citizens, clones, and conscripts all watch in shock as they see the betrayal unfold. Much of that information is classified, and the data trail suggests it's from the office of the Chancellor. With that, the tide shifts and the dams break. Thousands more citizens come rushing out and denounce the Chancellor. They all shout for impeachment, and many more senators add their voices to this mix. This forces an emergency session in the Senate. Chaos. A voting holoscreen lights up as senators shout and stand in unison.
Invoking Order 65. Due to confirmed evidence of treason, we move for the immediate removal of Chancellor Palpatine from office.
The screen flashes. Yes, 1032. No, 242. Masamada slams his staff.
By will of the Senate, Order 65 passes. Palpatine is removed from power.
The chamber is dim. Palpatine stands alone, watching the feed. His face is unreadable. Footsteps echo. Commander Fox enters, flanked by Jedi.
Chancellor Palpatine, you are under arrest by the authority of the Galactic Senate.
So, it has come to this.
With a snap hiss, 2 red blades ignite from his sleeves. Palpatine strikes first, cutting through the guards with shocking speed. Fox is thrown aside with a violent burst of force lightning. He smashes against the wall, alive but unconscious. Palpatine shatters the window and leaps into the wind. Darkness. Steam vents hiss. Sirens wail above. A planet-wide search begins, and among them, Ahsoka Tano, Shaak Ti, and Anakin pursue him through the shadows. The Force guides them. That is, until Fives and Thorn contact them, saying he was spotted entering a facility. When Anakin, Shaak Ti, and Ahsoka arrive, they see him preparing to depart on a hidden ship. Palpatine ignites his sabers.
I am afraid I do not have time to chat, young ones. I do have a ship to catch.
Then I advise that you make time, you traitor.
He suddenly springs forward, raising his lightsaber over his head and brings it down. Palpatine crosses his lightsaber and blocks the attack. He pushes Anakin back, but Ahsoka is on him immediately, her lightsaber is whirling in a spin. Palpatine manages to intercept them and leaps to the side, where Shaak Ti pounces on him. Their lightsabers clash once, then twice. She tries to advance on him, but then sweeps his lightsaber in a blood-red arc. She leaps clear of the attack, and Anakin takes her place once again. And as he presses closer, aiming an overhead cut. They trade blows, and he presses closer, aiming an overhead cut. The Chancellor catches his strike and twists it down before his leg lashes and kicks him aside. He turns just in time to intercept Ahsoka's attack, leaving the two to clash while Shaak Ti joins in yet again. The two Tagarutas advance on him, striking from either side and forcing him to constantly spin to block their strikes. Ahsoka adds to the chaos, sweeping her lightsaber in low cuts and whirling into the air to try and disorient him. It seems to work for a moment as Palpatine tries to step back and collect his thoughts. The two press forward and stab their lightsabers at him, and then Palpatine rushes into them and spins in the air, sliding between their attacks, and throws a burst of force lightning that sends them flying back. He rushes towards his ship and begins activating the controls when he hears an alarm from behind as someone stabs at the controls. Anakin appears behind him and begins slashing his lightsaber into the controls. Sparks begin to fly, and his ship begins to sputter. Palpatine lashes out, roaring. Anakin slides back under the attack. He moves back and forth, blocking his next strike. Their blows spark against the wall, dragging across the ship as the two clash. But then one of Palpatine's strikes catches against the ship. His eyes widen as he tries to pull his lightsaber out. This is all Anakin needs, and he drives his lightsaber through his chest. With the Chancellor dead, a new effort is made to see how deep this conspiracy goes. Key Palpatine allies are removed, while the conscripts are forced to pledge allegiances to the Republic. Padme is made the acting Chancellor and makes an effort to address the issues of the war and bring it to a peaceful end, not wanting to simply play into Palpatine's plan. Meanwhile, Ahsoka and Fives depart, having revealed that she heard Echo in her time in the data center, and the two move to rescue him. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.